Well, hello there, humans, hippies, earthlings, tall, small, short and round, whoever you are, wherever you are, whatever you're doing and whoever you're lucky enough to be doing it to. Today we're going to be talking about doing it with a head like a racing tadpole. That's right, this thing is the T29. It's got a Tier 7 body and a Tier 10 head. Spots on this Tier 10 head have 500 millimeters of armor. It's basically an invulnerable machine of justice if you can get it hull down, as I'm demonstrating here. Now, this is a patron-sponsored post, but I just want to point out that the quality is pretty crap. Now, I was in two minds. I recorded all the footage for this, and then I was stupid enough to sell the tank because I thought I had the footage in the can, but Show TV really isn't living up to its standards. I used to do a lot of recording on Show TV, and it's only recording, even in 1080p, it's only recording 120 meg files for 7 minutes and such, which is just not really up to scratch. So we won't be doing that anymore, which is going to lengthen the time frame for some of these reviews, but at the same time, I just wasn't happy with the quality. So we're going to be skipping this means of production and moving back to the old AirPlay onto the home laptop. Now, this tank used to be the biggest dog, the monster, the Incredible Hulk. It's been nerfed to touch by wargaming, but it's suffered more at the hands of meta than anything else. It's excellent at hull down tactics, and the chassis itself isn't too drab. You can bounce a lot of shots off the front of this tank if you angle it correctly. You can side scrape in this tank. It's got a big alpha, like a very healthy alpha damage, and the gun packs enough of a punch that you can really deter people from getting up and involved. But the game's really moving to quicker and quicker tanks, more flanking maneuvers, less about standoff engagements like this where it can really excel, and fewer and fewer situations where you can hull down. Now, just to give you an idea on why this tank is so good at those situations, if you have a quick look up in the top left corner of the screen there, you'll see the armor profile. Red is impenetrable from the perspective of a Tier 7 IS. Firing AP or APCR, either one, it's not going to get through the turret. You've also got 10 degrees of gun depression on it, and if you angle the tank, you can see that frontal upper glacis becomes quite bouncy even against other Tier 7 heavies. And the gun depression allows you to slide forward like this, show that upper glacis at an angle, and then roll back. Your big negative on this tank is its mobility. I mean, the armor profile, we don't really need to look at it. Look at it. You can side scrape it. It's got a long wheelbase. It's got an incredible, great turret. But your mobility is rubbish. You've only got 25 degrees of traverse, which isn't horrible, but only 14 degrees of turret traverse. That makes you very, very prone to circle of deaths from enemy medium tanks. And that can leave you in situations where you just get flanked and spanked by guys in Comets and T43s and KV13s and SPICs and all kinds of quick movers. And that's the meta of the current game. It really is leaning towards tanks that have mobility rather than tanks that can duel it out. Because the maps are, while they are small, they don't always force tanks through corridors. It used to be a lot stronger. And I mean, even as a complete noob, I ran this tank as my first ever Tier 7 at 60% because I came from a background in World War II Online where the only way of protecting a tank was by going hull down. And that being the case, I knew how to hull down this tank, and that's all I did. I just sat at spots that hulled down and waited there like the most boring tank driver ever, and then popped people when they couldn't penetrate my turret, which was pretty much everyone in the game. But the tank can't rely on that anymore. Maps have certainly opened up a touch for mobility, and they don't force you through the same channels. And you're finding in a lot of these games, you've got 3, 4, even 5 medium tanks on your team or against you. I mean, look at this. There's 2 heavies on this tank, 2 mediums, a tank destroyer, and 2 light tanks. So you've got 4 fast movers on our team. Now that T3485, he's doing his best, and there's an Unco over there which is in the wrong spot. So what you've got to look at is, with this tank in particular, if you can't always hull down, what do you do with it? Well, the first and most important thing is you can find a lot of positions where you're on hills or the edges of hills and slopes. And this is something you can take with you all the way through the rest of the American heavy line. The M103 in particular is good like this, where you get on the edges of hills and you go around the bases, and it acts like a very much like a hull down situation for the tank, but it also means that other tanks that are fighting you on the same slope, if they don't have good gun depression, they have a really difficult time lowering the gun down to hit your lower glacis, because the hill or the slope will naturally angle the upper glacis of the tank at a nearly optimum level, so that you're getting the biggest effective armor profile you can out of the tank. And you can see there that takes us straight across the bottom of the hill, angles the upper glacis up very severely, and you've got that extremely strong turret, which is the hallmark of the line. And don't get me wrong, it is still an exceptionally strong tank, and it's a bully. It's got 310 alpha as an average, and it has 195 pen on its actual AP rounds. So you've got no issues in terms of pen, and your premium ammunition, your APCR, will go through just about anything you need it to go through at tier 7, 8, and 9. Where you are going to struggle with the tank is, as mentioned, your mobility. While 25 degrees per second of traverse is pretty solid for a heavy, 14 degrees is not. So you've got to learn to make use of the terrain, like this dead Chi-Ri in front of me, and I'm going to side scrape off that and course this T29 to get nothing but tracks. Just don't give him an angle. And that's something else the tank can do. It is actually quite surprisingly good at side scraping. Something with the long wheelbase and a lot of track and a very strong turret can get away with a fair bit when you're side scraping. The other big winner for this tank is that it can run vertical stabilizer. I was running V-stab in this tank, and I was really upset when I rebought the IS, because I'm going to be doing another review on the IS, and found that the IS could not buy V-stab. It had to buy enhanced gunlaying drive. And vertical stabilizer is by far and away much more effective than enhanced gunlaying drive at all kinds of situations. It helps on the move. It helps when moving the turret. The dispersion starts lower. It's just a much more effective way of getting bang for your buck if you want to improve your gun handling. And it needs to improve its gun handling, because 0.42 dispersion and a 2.7 second aim time on this tank are both pretty crap. And it means that as a tank, you've got to get up close and personal. You've got to be a bit of a bully, and you've got to get involved with the enemy at as close a quarters as possible. Now, if you can't, then you want to find a hill like this. You want to find somewhere that mitigates your weaknesses, which is your really crap traverse numbers and your weaker lower hull area, and only give them the turret to shoot at, and use that 10 degrees of gun depression. Now, I'm a huge fan of gun depression, as you all probably know if you've watched any of my reviews. I think gun depression is probably the key stat in this game. You can make just about any tank work, the Type 61 for instance, which I don't believe is a very nice tank, but you can make it work if you have gun depression. Now, the way I drive it now that's different from the way I drove it when I first got the tank and I didn't know what I was doing, is that I'm a lot more aggressive in it, and I look to move it from, and this is not an intentional thing, but when I watch the gameplay back, we move from a strong hull down area to the next strong hull down area. And because you're a bully, one of the things you can do, you can turn the tables on light tanks. Light tanks and medium tanks, if they're not flanking hard and they start trying to go to set positions, you can fire HE and AP and really wreck them quite severely. Specifically the new German lights, the Leopard, the SP1, the RU251, all of these tanks can be penetrated by HE in varying degrees. And that makes for some really big numbers when you get the opportunity. Plus, if you can find good cover from your teammates and go within the flow of the game, they can really support. And you can see there that VK3001D just followed the Leopard that I pumped and finished him off for me. And now we're rolling across and into the enemy. You can see I'm constantly looking for ways to put HE rounds. And we pumped that Chi-Ri there into these very lightly armoured tanks, which is something that we've seen coming a lot more through the ranks of Blitz. Starting with the Leopard originally, and then the Japanese medium line, and now into the German lights, we're seeing a lot more of these lightly armoured tanks. And if players are rolling those tanks and they're not taking advantage of the mobility, then you've got to get right up in their face and into their flanks and do all kinds of damage. And you can see we've gone from June to June, from strong position to strong position, and just pumped damage into the enemy. And in the next map, you're going to see us do it on Lost Temple. One of the key things I find with the way the map meta has gone is there's a lot of these rolling areas which give little individual battles. So you can be 20 meters away from someone fighting and you won't see the other side of them. You can see there's two separate battles going on within 50 meters of each other, and you've got to really move to get a look at it. Now you can see they're using HE again. And Lost Temple, Oasis Palms, Desert Sands, the new Middleburg map, they all revolve around that theory of segregated combat. And it leaves a tank like the T29 a wide open door to roll up from hull down spot to hull down spot and really push their case, push their suit, and pump damage into the enemy. And you're going to see here we're running with, I think we're running with Indestructible tank, a great little player. I think he's in his Comet. Here he is rolling here, and he does a great job, does plenty of damage, pumps plenty of damage, gets out on the flank. You can see he's gone to the right. And so I'm just moving up inside of him. He's spotted everyone and absolutely pounding. Now we're leaving those two guys on the left, and we're going to pincer back around towards Indestructible tank, who's already put a bit of damage into the Panther there, and then come out here into the Comet and the IS, because this is that segregated combat mode I'm talking about. See all these hills? They're all little hull down spots that give you the chance to just move up and pump. And that's what we're doing. We're rolling from one hull down area to the next the entire time, just bullying your way forward. Because the old meta with this tank was very much close conflict, channel one ball, everyone's coming down the rough stuff. You've got to stop the other KV3 or the Tiger 1 or whoever's there, and you could. But now you can see how much movement occurs within the game. And the guys that sit there and wait for things to happen are probably going to be the ones who come second. So search out these dune areas and the little flanks of hills like this, and you can see the tank is constantly going hull down. And then we move it backwards and forwards where we use this really strong turret and don't give the enemy any opportunities. Now Indestructible tank has done just as much damage as me. Here's HE again for another big shot into the back of that T25 AT. And that's something you've really got to skill up on, guys. If you're driving these heavy tanks, you're already at a bit of a disadvantage. So why not start using the high caliber guns and really pumping these tanks, these lighter armored, lower hit point tanks, for big numbers when you get the opportunity. So we're going to get 5 kills in this. And I think we do nearly exactly the same damage as our platoon mate, Indestructible tank. So it just goes to show that, you know, it's all well and good, but it's just a bit of a show pony game, really. We've got one more game on Himmelsdorf, and we're going to be... I like this game particularly, well, one, because we do quite well in it, but two, we make some big mistakes, and we come back from it, and we manage to pull out a very close result, but it's also not a map that has a lot of hull down areas, and it's not a map where you can... Well, there are hull down areas, but there aren't where we're fighting. But you see, again, Josh is on my right flank. I'm with Josh 8, friend of the channel, Josh 8. And he's on the right flank, and I think his missus actually calls him to go and take the hose out of the garden, so he has to bugger off mid-game. And he says so. But we're taking advantage of these guys that are moving up. You can see en masse. Look how many of them there are. Like light tanks, 2 mediums, 3 tank destroyers. They've got 1 heavy tank on the enemy team, and we've got 2. In the old days, that would be 5 to 6 heavy tanks every game, and it's just not the case anymore. So there's a lot of movement involved. When you see that happening and you see that they've stopped, get stuck into their flanks and be that aggressive human being. Be there right next to the medium tanks and the light tanks, and get stuck right into the flank and make them think twice about life. And that's what we're doing here. Josh is still sitting there in the T43. I think he may even have gone AFK by now. And we have completely moved around and into him. And we're down a couple of tanks, but nothing to worry about particularly. They're in a pretty tough spot. This Chi-Ri and the Panther, and we're going to side scrape again off this edge. It's a great tank for it, really is. There we go. We're not exposing ourselves very much at all. Just going to side scrape off that edge, give the Chi-Ri a look at the track. They might not hit it, they might hit us, but that's a happy accident, as Bob Ross would say. We're just, unfortunately, we've fired the gun there by accident. We're just pulling back again and side scraping again. So we're not giving the Chi-Ri any shots even if he wants them. And we tap him just on the tailpipe, and it's 3 tanks to 2 to the good. But unfortunately, as you can see over there, there are 2 very, very low hit point tanks and 2 red still. So we're all for it. Now, we do have spots though on target, so as that AT is moving back, we're going to get a shot into his side and pull back and try and side scrape. Now remember how I was talking to you about the T29, how the upper glacis is quite strong. They've got a KV-1S, which is a very good Russian Tier 6 heavy. Very, very similar to the IS. Quick, big gun, lots of derp, but he's probably blown through all of his gold ammunition so far. So what we're doing is angling here and hoping that he doesn't have the pen to get through, and it would appear that he's got no premium ammunition left to throw at us, because we bounce quite a few shots off this upper glacis, which is a lovely thing. And the T29 is very, very good at doing it. In fact, for a tank that has a weak spot as a chassis, it's surprisingly strong. Like, its weak spot is surprisingly strong. Now you can see we're always angling again. We're going to angle off that overturned railway truck in front of us, just angling it. As he comes round, we're going to take one and drive forward, cut his angle down, and never giving him a square look. Now this is unfortunate. This is me YOLOing in, not YOLOing, but tunneling in sniper mode, and I screw the kill shot up by driving into the overturned wagon. So we're now going to drop back because we're about to get hit on the left by the Tier 7 Brit tank destroyer, and we're trying to use that Chi-Ri as cover for our right. I don't realise there that the Chi-Ri is not actually covering all the way over. So what I think is a solid bit of cover is in fact giving him a good look at my drive wheel, and he just about nuts me. So this shot has to go straight in, and it does. And he should have pushed right through there, but he thought I was coming around behind, didn't realise, and he hesitates. Now this is something that I have been preaching on this channel forever. When you are in the very end situation of a game, there's 2 minutes on the clock, you do not want to rush it. I can't say this often enough. Be patient and let them make a mistake. They nearly always will. Unless you know they're a really good player, people get rushed, and you know that on the other side of the team, in the red chat, there's people going, go, 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 quick, time, go, quick, time, go, go. Wait. I'm not moving my tank. Absolutely not moving. And another thing is, if you get far enough away and you're not moving your tank, you'll drop off his radar. If he keeps moving his tank, he's going to stay on my radar. And you can see there, just being patient, taking the time, and we get the 6 kill. We get the pulls, and we rock and roll out of there with a win in the bag. And Josh comes back just in time to say, "G'day, mate, well done." So it's still a very good tank. It's still a strong tank. It's just not the overlord, monster damage, all-time winner tank that it was once upon a time. And maybe that's a good thing. It's still very, very strong in the hands of an experienced player. And if you're the kind of guy that's looking for something that gives you an unassailable and easily exploitable advantage as a new player, then you can take that turret and put it in certain situations and feel like the king of the world for a day, because it is a very, very tough out once it gets entrenched and stuck in a really important position on the map. So there's a lot going on channel regardless, team. We've got the IS review will be coming up in the near future. We've got a whole heap of Russian light stuff, German light stuff. I am loving the new German light line to death. That's my dog. I don't know why I put him in there. It's not meant to be there. Sorry, Manu. Named after one of my favourite basketballers. the whole German light line is just superb, and I'm really, really loving that mobility, the camo, the options on the options that you get in terms of how you want to do battle. So keep your eyes peeled to the channel. There's going to be a lot more live streams. We've had a couple lately. They've been superb, really good fun, and I can't wait to see you all in there. So keep your eyes out for that. Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, you've been fantastic. I've been a big old waffling Australian. Stay safe on the battlefield.